Hey, Charlie and Ben, how can I overcome my non-confrontational behavior? I feel really awkward when confronting anyone about anything. Kindly suggest how to overcome it.
So there's a couple of things. One is exposure therapy, right? Is start small and do it. And if you want, you can make a mental or physical list of the things in your life that need to be said and do it.
Yeah. Don't force it though. Confront about something you care about.
Yeah. The other and pick an easy small one, and like with all of the habits that I'm having, if you know that there's a conversation that need to be had, somebody said something to you, set up stakes, put money on it. I know this isn't a fun way, but sometimes people need the whip, and the whip of saying, if I don't speak to this person about such and such topic by Saturday, I'm going to send $50 away. I'm
going to buy Inside Tracker.
Can often be enough to motivate you to do it. And by the way, this isn't going to make you like it. It's going to make you do it, which is going to desensitize you to doing it, which will make it easier in the future. Mm-hmm. In terms of how to feel less uncomfortable with it, it really does come from time. I'll tell you what the mindset is, but you're not going to feel it until you do it, is that conflict doesn't necessarily end relationships. In fact, it often makes them stronger. There's a dip where things are uncomfortable, but then you come back out the other side with a renewed understanding of how to treat one another or what your standards are. And sometimes relationships end as a result of it, but oftentimes they improve, and there's a handshake or a hug afterwards that's thanks for telling me. And once you start to see the upside of doing this, or if it's just a worker at a store and you're saying, hey, the way that I need a refund for this, and they say no, and you say that it works for XYZ reasons, you start to receive the benefits of the conflict. So hopefully, that's a start. Anything else that you would add?
I'm mulling something. I don't actually know how I feel about it, but what comes to mind is that if you don't already, weightlifting or jujitsu or boxing class or something might help. Because I know a lot of people, depending on the confrontation, there's this, they just feel meek every day. They just feel weak in general as they live their life, right? So forget confrontation for a second. They just walk around feeling like a weak person. Yeah. And so they don't really make eye contact well. They don't stand with good posture. And there's this self-fulfilling thing of they feel physically weak, so they carry themselves like someone who is weak. And then they get put in the face of confrontation, and their whole habit and body and mindset is just all that of like a squirrel, just prey, right? And so I think that if that is the case, and you're not someone who's confident all the time, and you're a big athlete and you just happen to be scared of your boss, but you feel like an almost constant sense that you're trying to avoid being seen and avoid rubbing people the wrong way and avoid conflict, I think it can help to start to do a physical practice where you push yourself and start to feel good about yourself and start to feel strong in some area that can then carry over.
It's like a cybernetics thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone that's confrontation avoidant, but I could imagine a person who would benefit a lot from just feeling strong for a half hour a day, pushing themselves and sweating and grunting, and having that slowly carry over to, okay, now I'm the kind of person who stands up straighter and who feels stronger. And then when the confrontation does come, you're not in this mental habit of just generally feeling like you're trying to avoid being seen and avoiding rubbing people the wrong way and just a weak person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working on emotional mastery right now, which is why my head is sort of there. The things that Ben has said and the first thing that I said is the fastest route there. But if you want to check out the course, you can do so. I think we used to only open it for a few days a month. We're expanding that. So we can add a link in the description. But
it's a Corona special.
Well, it's not. It's not specifically for conflict. What you find with a lot of these things, when you get sad, angry, lonely, conflict, it's as cheesy as it sounds. If you had a stronger sense of self-love, all of that stuff becomes easier to handle. Because at some level there is a fear that if this doesn't go well, I won't be able to recover. This person doesn't like me. I couldn't handle that. And so while all of the things that we said are fantastic, more surface level things, if you're interested in going into the deep, you can check that course out, which is much more about self-love, bringing up moments in the past where you might have made a vow to yourself never to behave a certain way and then forgotten that vow, and now that's just how you carry yourself. So that'll be something that we'll put in the description as well.
Yeah, real quick, I don't know if I'm stealing something from the course, but in my Ragnar video that I made, the topic of fear is in there, and I think you're right. A lot of times if you are afraid of confrontation, it's because you imagine that on the other side of confrontation is potentially a huge negative outcome, right?
Yep.
And so what you can do if you have a specific confrontation, like this is not going to help you in general with your fear of confrontation, but if you're like, I get scared specifically when talking to my boss or my significant other or whatever, for that one, what can be really helpful is it's Practical Pessimism by Tim Ferriss. It's getting concrete on what is your actual worst case scenario? Because when you leave your worst case scenario undefined, that boogeyman is terrifying. Mm-hmm. But get into the weeds of like, okay, what will happen if I do this confrontation? Okay, this thing will happen. And then what would happen? And then what would happen? And what you find ultimately is you would be totally fine. Mm-hmm. And so that's a really helpful way for individual confrontations to just mute the fear. And once you mute the fear, the fear of the worst case scenario, that will remove the fear of the confrontation itself. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Cool. What else?
And finally, this person says, I am a pretty charismatic and present person. People give me feedback that I speak with so much clarity and that I'm authentic. I always try and stay present and self-aware to bring consciousness to everything. This has led people to treating me in a way that I want because I make it known when I dislike bad behavior. However, one area I falter in is in relationships, and they're referring to romantic. Given how people describe me as outgoing, I struggle to understand why I have so much approach anxiety when it comes to women. If we are in a group and there is a reason to interact, I do very well, crack jokes, act charismatic, but I feel like I am losing a lot of potential interactions by not being able to approach people I'm interested in. I've read one of your first books, Anti-Pickup Line, and I know I can use the hey I haven't met you yet line, yet when it comes to game time, I freeze. I have found some videos on YouTube on hypnosis/meditation for approach anxiety, and I'm wondering your thoughts on that as well. I want to feel less mental friction to apply my charisma to this area. I excel well in friendships and work relationships, but not in these types of relationships, so I'm curious to see what advice you guys have.
I wouldn't bank on hypnosis.
No.
That's not the route I would go. If it's helpful for you, that's awesome, but it's not. I'm not optimistic on it. I think that it's exactly the other question, actually, just about something else. It's the same as the fear of confrontation. There's the three things you can do. One is just eventually over time, it gets way easier. That's the exposure therapy part. In fact, funny enough, the second person you talk to in a bar that you don't know is always easier to start a conversation with than the first.
So what Ben and I would do, understanding this fact, and I even want to step back because weirdly enough, it's the same answer. And if you asked me at age 25, I would give you the very tactical, fastest answer that would be the most effective to use. And today it's like, we'll take emotional mastery because we need self-love anyway. I think all of these things are true. And so for you, it's about selecting where on this pyramid of tactical specific versus broad root cause am I interested in working. If you're a younger person, I recommend tactical, like make yourself pay a certain amount of money, do the other things we recommend. But if you're getting older and you're finding that these expand into other areas of your life, you might want to go more root cause, because this goes beyond approach anxiety. It goes, it goes into other areas. But go ahead.
Well, no, so I don't even remember where I was at, but the momentum. So
second person
could be bars. This could also be, this is true of street, coffee shop. Like this isn't just for places that serve alcohol. This is anytime you want to talk to anyone. The second person you want to talk to is always easier than the first. So just talk to anyone for your first conversation. If I sat at home alone, not listening to music, let's say I just had to sit in silence and meditate for an hour. Then I got walked into a bar and I was told you cannot speak to anyone and you can't dance. You just have to stand still or walk in circles for an hour. Now go approach the prettiest person you see. That would be so much harder than if I were hanging out by myself, listening to music that I liked, or hanging out with friends pre-gaming, and then I go to the bar and immediately I start joke flirting with the bouncer, guy or girl, right? Just cracking, using the charisma that apparently comes easily to you in other situations, and then with strangers is the thing, because you're saying I'm good with friends, strangers, bouncer you don't know, the very first person you see when you walk inside, guy or girl. And if you do that, go up to the bar and instead of just ordering your drink, you are talking to the bartender as if they're a friend, or you're making jokes. Now when you see someone that you want to talk to, you're already in this mode, you're in this state of, when I see people who I don't know, I talk to them, and when I talk to them, I make jokes. And so what you're going to do it's just see this person, and it's going to be way easier for you to talk to them and make jokes. So that's my number one piece of advice is to just get social momentum. Don't make the first stranger you talk to someone that you're really invested in it going well.
Yeah.
The second thing is recognizing that rejection doesn't matter at all, right? Which goes back to what we talked about before, practical pessimism. I used to have this. I was terrified of being rejected by strangers. And I don't know why. I think because I was bullied as a kid, because I asked a girl out when I was in 8th grade or something. I got rejected brutally. And so then rejection became, in my mind, something that's very painful. But, you know, you're not in 8th grade anymore, so you're going to be fine. And so I think that helps a ton. And the other thing, which is very helpful, is Charlie's point earlier, the money. Go out with a friend or something, go out to a bar and say, hey, I'm going to give you $100. And if I don't talk to one person that I don't know that I'm attracted to, you get to keep it. And if I do, I get it. Because now, just a real quick thing, humans, we make decisions by pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain. And in your head, talking to this pretty person has some small amount of pleasure potentially, but a big amount of pain in your head, which is this rejection. Stack the deck against yourself with more pain, which is losing $100, and all of a sudden you will find that you are basically using a whip and a carrot to motivate yourself towards what you ultimately want to be doing.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that wasn't said, and Ben highlighted it, but I just want to really draw it out, is that the only people that you're probably approaching in your life that you don't know are these girls. You're not actually giving yourself, you say that you're very social in groups, but how often do you walk up to men that you don't know and strike up conversation? I would bet almost never, and I bet that would give you a tiny bit of anxiety. Not tiny, maybe moderate, but less than the most beautiful person there. So you're actually asking yourself to go from 0 to 100. And there are just intermediate stages. And the first stage, I would say, are service people that you don't normally converse with, because they kind of have to talk back to you. So just be kind and fun, and they'll appreciate it as well. The second might be the person that you're in line with, right? You know, okay, this is what we do at the grocery store. We stand 6 feet apart with coronavirus, but we say words to one another. And then by the time if you build the habit of doing that, when a beautiful girl walks into your elevator, it's not 0 to 100.
I was actually thinking the elevator is a great example.
50 to 100.
Yeah, if you are the kind of person that anytime someone gets in an elevator, you start a pleasant conversation with the goal of enjoying it and having the other person enjoy it. And that's what you do anytime someone gets in an elevator. When a beautiful person gets in the elevator, you will have a pleasant conversation with them because you've done it 100 times with 100 other people that you weren't trying to have a romantic relationship with. So you just make it a habit. You make good habits that when you are talking to someone you happen to be attracted to, leads you to flirting and dating and whatever. But it's not that you're trying to be this person that you never are. You know what I'm saying?
Those were the best. When we used to go out to the bars or clubs often, those were the best nights, is where you were just so social with whoever you were. And before you knew it, you were in a group with someone that you were really attracted to that you didn't even necessarily try to get into. You were just taught, and I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, or she's laughing at your third joke and you realize, oh, I'm attracted to this person.
Yes,
but you've been treating her like a person, like everyone in the bar, and you would have done that with everyone else. And then it just happened, you go, oh, I'm attracted to this person. And then you switch into more of a purposeful flirtation. But yeah, if she hadn't been there, you'd be cracking the same 3 jokes to the same group of people minus her.
Yep. Cool. Anything, I think, no more?
Makes me miss the good old days when bars were open.
Oh man, we're done with that. We're done with that. Corona life forever. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. It's been a minute since we've been here.
Thank you to our sponsors, Inside Tracker and Endless Options. We appreciate you.
And
maybe we'll do this again soon.
Maybe, yeah. I just had a lot to say. I was triggered, man. I had to get on. Thanks, guys. Take care.
I like doing them.